Hello, my name is Robyn Tamanaha. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Irvine, and I identify as Japanese American.
And hi, my name is Sharon Chan, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Irvine also. And I identify with being Asian American, Korean, and Chinese.
Mm-hmm. So today what we're going to talk about is pretty much a branch of our previous video, which we'll link below. But today what we're going to talk about is pretty much the signs to look out for when it comes to mental health with Asian Americans, specifically bridging the gap between the external experience, so say the behavior someone's doing, and then connecting that with the thoughts and the feelings portion. Mm-hmm. And the body, sorry, the external is also the body.
Yeah, too. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like the reason we want to build an awareness of that, in our previous video we talked a lot about the external being a priority in the Asian American culture, right? Mm-hmm. Our behaviors, our performance, even, and it gets tricky because generations before us, for our Asian culture, like they didn't really have the language or the awareness or even sometimes maybe even the luxury of understanding like our thoughts and feelings, internal mental health, right? Mm-hmm. And the connection with the external. For example, we might hear a lot of times like, oh, my back hurts or I have a headache, and then we would go to the doctor or have these home remedies to kind of cure that. But a lot of times it's so deeply connected, right? Like our behaviors, our bodies, and our internal thoughts and feelings, and we want to bridge that gap. Not to judge the generations before mm-hmm. us, but then it gets tricky, like as second, third generation Asian Americans, when we have this information about mental health, it's like, how can we bridge that gap, right? When we talk specifically about anxiety, I want to first say that stress and anxiety are connected. Stress is very normal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's functional. It helps us to perform well. But when it becomes chronic or too much stress at one time, and it goes on for an extended period of time, that's actually when it can become an anxiety disorder. And some of those external things for anxiety are like, would you say like headaches, mm-hmm. right?
Body aches, mm-hmm. right? Yeah.
Muscle tension, mm-hmm. right? It might even look like the behaviors that you're talking
like
about.
Doing things, like maybe someone is just doing like chores or cleaning, or just from the restlessness, like needing to do some sort of behavior and some sort of movement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like doing, mm-hmm. keep busy. Mm-hmm. And it also could look like, some people say stomach aches can also be a sign of mm-hmm. anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, maybe one possibility, like I think you said the thoughts, right? Like racing thoughts, but maybe feeling, just like kind of feeling on edge or difficulty, like the concentrating and worrying mm-hmm. part too.
Yeah.
Maybe is one.
Yeah, so this internal like rumination, mm-hmm. difficulty controlling, worrying, mm-hmm. racing thoughts, mm-hmm. right? Which then impact your performance, your concentration, maybe your sleeping. Mm-hmm. And I remember you were talking about like the behavior, external behavior of anxiety, how that could look like perfectionism.
Yeah, definitely. So the need to like have things just so, or to recheck or do things a certain way in order to combat and control the worries. It actually does the opposite, and it can build more worries, mm-hmm. but usually that's essentially what the perfectionistic thing is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in our culture, I would assume that if there's this perfectionistic mm-hmm. drive to do well, that can actually be praised, right?
That's actually very correct. Yeah, because there may be that mindset, or maybe one possibility is someone if they do things like perfectly, or if it looks perfectly, then like they could get praise for it, because there may have actually been rewards from it, even if it wasn't praise or in school or work mm-hmm. or whichever. So
totally.
yeah,
totally,
that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we just went over some of the body and behavioral symptoms of anxiety, and then the internal, which were like the racing thoughts, mm-hmm. the feeling on edge, feeling keyed up, right? Mm-hmm.
feeling fidgety, just feeling like not at peace.
Yeah.
I think that's a major
marker, wouldn't you say, of anxiety?
Another one, let's say like depression.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say the person may have difficulty sleeping. Like that's, a pretty common one. I read something recently, I think it was on Site Today. It was talked about smiling depression, which I thought was super interesting. And pretty much what it is like functional depression. So someone is able to work, go to school, do all these things, and may look like they are just doing perfectly fine, but on the inside they actually feel quite the opposite. It's just like the face that they're showing out to the world just isn't a reflection on how they feel on the inside. So I thought that was interesting because it's like, there's probably this sense of like doing what they need to do, but at the same time there's this lackluster, almost like numbness too, like as they're going through the motions.
The feeling inside.
Yeah.
Numbness, lackluster.
But they're still doing all these things and like still doing the things that they need to do. So it gets like missed in a way where some people may not know that an individual who has this like smiling depression is actually experiencing the functional depression. Yeah. So it's really interesting, and if not, then, the person may just be like unmotivated or thinking like one possibility is thinking maybe tired. Any other thoughts that you can think of?
I think a very common sign of generally of depression is like feeling of hopelessness. Right. Feeling of like, and even anxiety and depression together, but this like thought process of like I'm not worth it or I'm worthless. A common feeling of depression too is guilt, right?
Yeah.
Guilt is a huge one.
Yeah. One possibility could be like feeling bad about feeling bad. So it's like feeling guilty about experiencing this sadness, which makes it very complicated because,
So difficult. I can't even imagine. Like, I mean, that must be, and that's why depression is such a, it can be so hard. Anxiety can be so hard because it's like this repetitive loop, right, and cycle.
Yeah, and those things can definitely feed off each other and kind of build it to where the experience is more and more, severe. So,
so we did go over some of the common external signs, our bodies and our behaviors with anxiety and depression, and some of the internal, right, the thoughts and feelings that we might not be able to see, and hoping to bridge that gap. Robyn, what are some of the maybe application pieces that we can take for the viewer today?
Yeah, one could be going off of what you said about like the possible like body experience and sensations, viewing it as pretty much like an alarm, like your body is telling you that maybe it's a good idea to stop and take a look at things and figure out how you could take care of yourself. Sometimes what happens is like it can be seen as maybe possibly a setback, like, okay, I have to do like A, B, C, and D, and now I'm feeling this, like, but really I just need to like have this needs to go away, or something needs to get rid of so that I could accomplish what I need to do. But really it's like the body saying like, pay attention and like listen to me. I'll give you an example. Like today, my check engine light turned on in my car, which was super fun. Not due for an oil change, so it's not that. So I don't know what it is. Like I have no idea. The possibilities are endless of what's going on with the car. But I made an appointment for tomorrow so that I can get it checked out to figure out like what it is. So thankfully, like also in the car, with the car, like the light turned on. It was a signal that, hey, something's going on the inside. Maybe set some time aside to figure out like what it is, which I will be doing. So it's very much like kind of applies the same, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is like that's a great example of how like our internal can be telling us something about what's happening, or external can be informing us. In this situation, when Robyn's car had her light come on, she's gonna go get it checked to see what the route is. And I'm sure, like, Robyn, if your car's still drivable, right?
Yeah.
Like you can still get around, hopefully, right? So at this point, it's not breaking down the functioning, but it's still telling us something needs to be checked out. to pay attention to, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would happen if like Robyn didn't check her car for a long time, or just kind of let this go? I think it's very similar to how we are as humans. Like our bodies are connected to our minds are connected to our thoughts and feelings. Like they're all connected behaviors.
Yeah.
If one of it is sparking alarm sign.
Yeah, definitely things will continue to build.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's the car or, you know, or the human. I sometimes, you know, maybe a person, let's say for example, if they wait till all these like these alarms have accumulated or all these other things are going on, and then finally it just becomes too much. Just sometimes when it gets handled, you know, as opposed to, oh yeah, like looking back, like, you know, there were signs before that maybe things weren't well, you know. So fortunately that, you know, the body does give those signals and it is a signal to, hey, like, you know, just take some time, you know, aside to figure out what it is, because something's going on.
Yeah, and that gives us to our second application part, which is like how to bridge the gap between our external, what our body's telling us, and then our internal, what our thoughts and feelings might be saying. So a practical piece with that is asking yourself, when you're feeling a certain thing in your body, when you're feeling a certain feeling, where do you feel it in your body? Or if you're feeling a pain in your body, which feeling would you give it, right?
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, like I'll just give a person, and I was talking to Robyn about this earlier, like when I was a kid and I would have a birthday party that I would go to, I would get super excited, and so my stomach would get into knots, and I would actually want to like throw up. I didn't want to throw up, but I would feel like it, right? This excitement, right? That's an example. Sorry if that's TMI. And then the second part is like when I feel a lot of stress or anxiety, like I get headaches, or like it really starts to manifest itself in my neck and my traps. But sadness looks very different for me. Sadness is like the gut feeling, and anxiety feels stress feels very tense, but sadness feels very heavy. So these are like kind of examples of when you're feeling blank, where do you feel in your body, right? So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I like how it's so like specific, you know, like it's probably have taken the time to really like kind of reflect on that, right, and figure it out, like what's going on. And it definitely does take time. Like it's definitely not something that comes, you know, quick. You know, but also maybe even like the opposite too is like if you're maybe someone may be experiencing a certain stressful situation or change or whatever it is, you know, I wonder if they pause, you know, if they think like they can connect that to where they feel it in their body, you know. Does that make sense? Yeah, because even over time, like as people get older, like they accumulate more experiences that may be quite stressful that they may be needing to handle for a while, you know. So it may be good to know like where it is in your body, that way you can kind of tie the two together.
Totally.
And also know at that point, like, oh, okay, yeah, definitely now pausing.
Yeah.
You know, or like maybe this is like what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. That's a really good point. Yeah. So, so I hope this was helpful. Anything else you want to add?
No, really. No, I think this was pretty much all of it. I guess like if through the video you're you know, you're noticing things, you know, within yourself, or maybe this brought up, you know, some things that you think like you may want to attend to, just reaching out, I guess, to a local mental health professional in your area. This video is just for like information purposes. It's not really like, it's not therapy, and it's not like a replacement for it. So if you do want that, then that's good, and there are many of us out there. So definitely like reach out to one in your area.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. Yeah. So we just hope that this information was helpful, and that it bridges some awareness with the external signs, with the internal, and it helps to continue to build that awareness, and especially for anybody, but specifically with the Asian American community, where sometimes that message can be very fuzzy.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Okay. Thanks for watching.
All right. Peace.